Do you expect an agreement today about immigration?
Witam serdecznie. Szanowni Państwo, po wczorajszych wieczornych dyskusjach i przed dzisiejszymi warto podkreślić jedno. Europa staje przed zasadniczym wyborem, czy zgodzić się na masową, nielegalną imigrację. Wszyscy tutaj przyznają, że partia Tuska zgodziła się w ostatnich dniach na poparcie paktu migracyjnego. To znaczy, że Europa chce wdrażać te rozwiązania. Gdyby partia Tuska doszła do władzy w Polsce, te rozwiązania będą wprowadzone. Nielegalni imigranci będą rozlokowani, jak to się mówi nie najpiękniej, dystrybuowani pomiędzy poszczególnymi państwami. Polska stawia takiemu stanowisku zdecydowane weto. Powiedziałem to wczoraj wielu premierom i co ciekawe, bardzo wielu się ze mną zgadza. Boją się tego dyktatu, który płynie z Brukseli i z Berlina. My się tego dyktatu nie boimy. Pokazaliśmy to już raz między rokiem 2015 i 2018, że niezależnie od procedur podejmowania decyzji w Unii Europejskiej w czerwcu 2018 roku doprowadziliśmy do tego, że w zapisach konkluzji Rady Europejskiej pojawiła się jednoznaczna wskazówka. Nie ma żadnej możliwości dystrybuowania nielegalnych imigrantów bez zgody poszczególnych państw członkowskich. To Polska wtedy wywalczyła. To było nieco ponad 5 lat temu. Przez 5 lat był spokój. I równo 5 lat później, w czerwcu tego roku, ponownie pod dyktando Berlina, Bruksela ze wsparciem partii Tuska zaczęła realizować tamten swój plan. Tamten plan, czyli przyjęcia nielegalnych imigrantów, a dla tych krajów, które nie chcą przyjąć nielegalnych imigrantów, nakładania drakońskich kar. Powiedziałem wczoraj kilku premierom, dzisiaj powiem to na sesji plenarnej, że Polska zdecydowanie odrzuca to ze względów przede wszystkim na bezpieczeństwo naszego kraju. Jak rozmawiałem o tym, jaka jest sytuacja bezpieczeństwa, czy we Francji, czy w Holandii, czy w innych krajach, to jasne stało się, że przyczyną tego braku bezpieczeństwa na ulicach są właśnie nielegalni imigranci. Proszę poczytać sobie raporty policji paryskiej czy policji francuskiej. 70% to są dane ich, to nie są dane nasze. 70% różnego rodzaju rozbojów, przestępstw pochodzi z tego typu źródeł, jak właśnie nielegalni imigranci. W Szwecji premier, z którym zamieniłem już kilka słów wczoraj, dzisiaj będę rozmawiał dłużej, premier Szwecji musi wyprowadzić wojsko, ponieważ policja już nie wystarcza. Do Marsylii ściągane są służby specjalne, a policjanci włoscy zostali pobici przez nielegalnych imigrantów. My chcemy spokoju, bezpieczeństwa i chcemy przewidywalności. Rząd Prawa i Sprawiedliwości jest przewidywalny. To, co zrobiliśmy 5 lat temu, tak samo i dzisiaj i na kolejnej Radzie, jeżeli taka będzie decyzja wyborców, będziemy bronili prawa Polaków do bezpieczeństwa. Dziękuję bardzo.
D'accord. Bonjour. Comment vas-tu? Alors, bienvenue. Ça va, ça va. Et vous, tout préparé? Très bien. J'espère avoir un bon conseil. Vous allez, vous n'inquiétez pas. Alors, vous allez pas
ici, s'il vous plaît.
Hello. Hello. Good morning. Hello. 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 Good morning. Hello. Hello. Hello.
We know that also the enlargement policy will be discussed today, so about that. Is European Union ready
This will be an important European Council meeting because it's the starting point of the debate on the strategic agenda. And we understand that this is important for us to clarify a few points. First, what do we want together in the future? What are our priorities? What are our common policies in the future, taking into account the prospect of the enlargement? Point two, how do we decide together? And point three, how do we pay for our priorities and for our common initiatives in the future? Important debate. Enlargement means that the candidate countries, they have reforms to implement. They know what they need to do. And on our side, on the EU side, we need to get prepared. And this is the first time for many years that we have such a high-level debate on such a fundamental topic, on such a fundamental question.
Mr. President, can a document between Azerbaijan and Armenia be effective without Azerbaijan's participation? And also, the declaration yesterday, it mentioned the right of Armenians who left Karabakh to return homes. Does this right also encompass the rights of hundreds of thousands of Azerbaijanis who were forced to leave Armenia many years ago?
We had a very good debate yesterday with Nicole Pashinyan together with Olaf Scholz and Emmanuel Macron. We issued a very clear communiqué, and a point is extremely important. I have decided to invite both leaders by end of October in Brussels, and both leaders agreed to come by end of October in Brussels for this meeting. And we will work very hard to make progress in the field of the normalization between Azerbaijan and Armenia, because I repeat again that the EU has no hidden agenda, that we want to work for a South Caucasus that prosperous, that's stable, that's predictable. This is our common goal, and we will do everything using all the European tools to encourage both leaders to make an agreement. And I mentioned yesterday what are the three fundamental principles to make an agreement, and especially the fact that it must take into account the mutual recognition of both sovereignties and territorial integrities. One last one.
Candidate countries or countries for the European perspective, they have to prepare, but European Union itself is ready for enlargement.
If we open this debate, this is because we know and we understand that we need to get prepared. And the three questions I've mentioned, in my opinion, are the framework for this political, democratic debate. And it's healthy from a political point of view that the leaders with the strong legitimacy of each of the 27 European leaders start this conversation in order to try to converge, to try to identify what we should do in the short term, but also in the mid-term to make progress. And again, this is a starting point. You know that the purpose is to have some orientations under the Belgian presidency around the summer next year. Thank you.
The German and the Austrian.
On 2030, aren't you going to be a little bit ahead of yourself?
Yes. They will tell you which one, which point, which one of the points.
Hey, ¿te han dado lo que hay de esto?
Yes, good morning. Good morning to everybody. So today we're going to have unofficial summit, but we have very many topics that we discuss. First is the strategic plans for the future. For us, it's very important that we increase the defense readiness of Europe. We have a war going on in Europe, and we have to prepare for that. That means also boosting defense industry, but it also means increasing the defense expenditure, because this is the reality that we live in. Then, of course, for the strategic agenda, it's also important to increase the competitiveness of Europe. What can we do in order to compete with other regions in the world? We have to decrease the bureaucratic burden that we have, and actually we have in Estonia many ideas how to do it, to use AI, for example, to cut the red tape and bureaucratic burden in this regard. And of course, regarding the AI, we also have to think about the possibilities that there are, not only concentrate on the risks. Other topic is the enlargement. Definitely, we are supporters of the enlargement, because again, if we look at Europe competing with other regions in the world, then we would all benefit from the enlargement, which means that there's a convergence with those countries that are not in the European Union. We are a positive example of this, how being in the European Union, actually the prosperity of our country has increased, and the prosperity of our people as well. it is also in the interest of Europe that those countries make the reforms, rule of law, democracy, getting rid of corruption, which is also for the whole economy a better way to do it. So we are supporters of enlargement, and we will discuss this. And of course, the last topic, but not least, is the migration pressure. Yesterday I had long discussions with our colleagues from the south, describing the situation, and we definitely have to think what we can do about this and have a strategic plan regarding also the migration and the agreements that we have with third countries. Thank you.
Minister Canada, would you mind coming over here? We have a question for you.
Okay, I will come later.
On migration, about the date, so President Michel said that 2030 is a possible date of expansion. So what is your position?
I think there are two sides. One is the side where the European Union has to be ready, and there I think we have to do everything on our side. If the countries fulfill the criteria, then we move on with the negotiation process. It can't be so that the countries to their side, and then we say that, oh, but we are not ready. So I don't know if the 2030 seems like very far away. I think we have to move faster than that on our side to be ready.
And do you support Georgia's candidates?
We have been supporting all the countries that really want to join European Union if they do the necessary reforms and take the steps like we did. We had a lot of very difficult reforms that we had to do. It required a lot of will from the public to endure this, but we did it, and I think nobody is expected to have any discounts in this regard. Okay? Okay?
Quick question on enlargement. On enlargement, should that be a process that should be speed up, or should it still be merit-based?
Of course, it has to be merit-based, but I also think that we have to speed up. It has been very many years since the last member was accepted to the European Union. If we think about our region's competitiveness towards other regions, then I think when we are bigger, when those countries that we actually also support financially right now are members of European Union, then the convergence happens and the prosperity of those countries also rises, and they don't need so much support anymore. So it is also in our interest. It is also in our interest that those countries make the necessary reforms, get rid of corruption, rule of law, all of this that actually invites investments to their countries. So I think it is also in our interest to accept new countries. And I mean, we can start with baby steps. There are small countries that we wouldn't even feel if they are members of European Union, but we show that we are open and it's not the closed club. Yesterday we had the European Political Community, a lot of countries that are aspiring to be members of European Union, and I mean Montenegro. There are different countries who want to be members.
For instance, money. We see wheat prices going down in Poland and everything changes. Is everybody really into what it means compared to
Yes, of course there are difficulties on the way, and of course everything evolves around the funds, who pays how much and who receives how much. What is also what has to be understood is that I mean, when we joined, we didn't get like with the agriculture funds, we had like 20% of the agricultural funds in the first place. So it requires also reform on our side. Is it really sustainable to do it this way? And we need those discussions. But I think we have to be very open that if we talk about funds, we are supporting those countries right now. So if their prosperity rises, actually they don't need so much support, and that happens when the convergence of different countries in the European Union happens. I mean, our country is a good example. When we started in the European Union, our I think we were like 48% of the average European Union GDP, and now we are like 80%. So this is in the similar way it goes to that direction, because it raises all boats.
But when it comes to the geopolitical dynamics, do you think that the door could close again, so that perhaps you have to get the countries in now and let them reform in time?
Yeah, I am of the opinion, I mean, again, coming from the country that has done this, there is a short opportunity window to do the necessary reforms, where the public behind in those countries are really willing to endure the pain and difficulty with those reforms. But that opportunity window closes. So if we don't use that, it's also actually detrimental to us because those countries don't get rid of corruption and all of this. I mean, our country, when we were freed, we understood that you know, if you were occupied, it was okay to steal from the state because you were undermining the regime, sort of. But when you are free, it's your taxpayers' money. It's not okay to steal from the state anymore. It required a whole mindset change for the whole country, and I think some of the countries that also were freed from the Soviet Union did not do that change then. But we see with Ukraine, for example, that they have the mindset change now. It's difficult, but I think it is in the interest of all of us that such a huge country in Europe is actually, you know, abiding with the rule of law and getting rid of corruption and that their prosperity rises.
Are you happy with setting a date?
Well, we haven't discussed that really, and I think it has two sides. I mean, one is us being ready as European Union, and I think we have to be fast there because otherwise, you know, if the countries fulfill all the criteria, I think it's wrong to say to them that, oh, but we are not ready now if they fulfill them. So we definitely have to do our homework on our side. But which date? I don't know. 2030 seems like a far away, too far away. Thanks.
The most devoted supporter of your membership. It's totally unfair that you are not promised to become as soon as you can, because you have done a great job and we need you very much. So,
And what
absolutely.
was the reason, how do you think, that Georgia was left behind in the last year?
Selfish. You know, the leaders are selfish. They would not like to let you in and get the sources financially which you need. So, you know, that's they call it fatigue, you know, enlargement fatigue, which is totally unfair to your country. So we have to share what we have with you, because we need you anyway. You have a strategic position.
Do you support in December candidate status and what you are going to
No,
do for organizations?
I'm a big promoter. Next week I'm in your country anyway. We have a common governmental meeting in Tbilisi. So the Hungarian government will be there. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All the ministers with me will be there.
Mr. Prime Minister, what do you think about anti-Azerbaijan declaration by European Parliament and calls for sanctions against Azerbaijan? What do you think about that?
Azerbaijan is a key country. So without Azerbaijan, we cannot have energy independence. It's a great country. We need them. Hungary has an agreement on gas corridor. So Azerbaijan, if we would like to get rid of dependence on Russian energy, we need Azerbaijan. That's so clear. Strategically important country.
Are you going to support the strategic agenda?
Sorry? Many questions and doubts. So we have to discuss it seriously. Because, you know, it's a country in war. We have never done any enlargement with a country who is in war. And we don't know where are the effective borders, how many people are living there, you know. So it's difficult. So many questions. We have to strategically discuss it. Sorry.
Would Hungary be prepared to pay for getting these countries in the EU?
First, we have to know what we are speaking about, how much money we are speaking about, you know. So there are no calculations. So if we would like to speak seriously membership of Ukraine, first we need strategic paper. But we haven't had neither paper, neither any discussion like that. So we have to understand why it is good for European Union to integrate Ukraine and what are the consequences of that on agriculture, on security, on cohesion fund. You know, totally new agriculture will be born out of membership of Ukraine in Europe. Are you ready for that? Are the French peasants ready for that? So many strategical questions. So first discussion strategically, then decision. Any more questions? Sorry.
Do you expect an agreement on immigration today? An agreement on immigration?
There is no agreement on immigration because previously we decided that migration will be regulated on a unilaterally agreement basis, which was changed last meeting. Poland and Hungary was not satisfied with the proposal, but they pushed us through, pushed through the proposal. So Hungary and Poland was totally left out of that. So after this, there is no any chance to have any kind of compromise and agreement on migration. Politically, it's impossible. Not today, generally speaking, for the next years, you know, because legally we are, we are raped. So if you are raped legally, forced to accept something what you don't like, how would you like to have a compromise and agreement? It's impossible.
Mr. Prime Minister, will you support opening negotiations for future membership for Ukraine and Moldova in December?
First, we have to consider whether is it our interest or not, and what kind of answers we have to the strategical consequences of that enlargement. We never have done it. So we don't see any strategic calculation, no major estimation of the consequences. First, strategic approach. Second, discussion. Third, decision.
Mr. Prime Minister, you mentioned gas. What about Southern Gas Corridor? Is expansion work underway?
Of course, so we have to be aware that the South Corridor is very important. Don't forget that the North Corridor was destroyed by a terrorist attack anyway. So we have to be very careful to guarantee the safety of the Southern Corridor, which is vital for Hungary. Without that, the Hungarian economy cannot operate. Any more questions?
Serbia.
Thank you.
What about Serbia?
Serbia.
Do you agree with the Kosovan president yesterday who called for sanctions on Serbia?
No, it's ridiculous. It's impossible. You know, the Serbs suffered provocation in the last 2 years regularly. So we have to understand that the Kosovars has to behave in different way. Don't provoke the Serbs. Provocation leads answers. That result in instability. So without Serbia, there is no stability in Balkans. So I definitely argue in favor to help Serbia to stabilize the region. Thank you.
morning, Prime Minister. Did you make a doorstep? No. Okay. Then you can go anyway here. Acompaña a la Patricia. And then go through the stairs. Which is nice. The stairs and then to the certificate. Okay. Follow me. Welcome. This way. No, she's not going to. I'm not going to the doorstep. Please follow me.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenos días, ¿cómo estás? Bien, bien. No.
Pues sígame.
Así, Clara.
Sí.
Vale.
Sígame, por favor. Yes. Okay. Then you find they tell you which one, and then you go for the cashier.
We today will address our future priorities for Europe and enlargement. For Latvia, our main topic and main priority will remain Ukraine. We believe that we must support Ukraine financially, militarily, and politically. But in the same time, there are other issues that are important to our society, such as high inflation rates, illegal migration, as well as other issues. I believe that we can today address as well these issues. And if we speak about enlargement, I believe this is a new possibility for Europe to become much stronger, prosperous, and safer. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning.
So you go to Mexico?
Yes.
Which year?
They'll tell me. Good. Yeah, yeah. Good morning.
The camera in the middle is free and live.
Where's the camera?
The one in the middle is the purpose for the moment.
Ah, okay.
Anytime.
Yes. I was asked to go to the camera in the middle. So what I'm going to do now. So good morning. Good morning. Today is the day of the European Council, and we will certainly first of all take stock of our strategic agenda, the strategic agenda since Versailles. And here mainly three topics. The first one is security and defense. Here the Commission will come forward in the next weeks with a defense industry strategy. Then the second topic will be a look at energy. We have moved mountains since Versailles. What energy security is concerned, it's amazing to see how we got rid of our dependency on Russian fossil fuels, but also the huge leap forward in the investment in renewable energies. And the third element will certainly be the resilience of supply chains. Here too, a lot has happened. The buzzwords are CHIPS Act or the Critical Raw Materials Act. This is taking stock of the Versailles agenda. Then, of course, there are other issues we will look at. For example, enlargement. Here, all of us, we have homework to do. Of course, the candidate countries have to do homework to access the European Union, but we as a European Union have also to do homework insofar the Commission will work on different policy reviews in different fields so that we can make sure that we are ready also for enlargement. And finally, migration. In migration, first of all, 2 days ago, we had a big success with the agreement in Council for the crisis management, because this was an important piece of the puzzle, the whole puzzle of the Migration and Asylum Act. So now the probability is very high, and I'm confident that we will bring it over the finish line. But there's also the operational work, very strong. The short term, this is the work on the 10-point plan from Lampedusa. And the mid-term work, this is, for example, agreements like we have it with Tunisia. And here is important that we also look at the structural improvements, comprehensive partnership with the countries of transit or of origin, investment in these countries, and also the establishment of legal pathways and humanitarian corridors. The better we are with legal pathways and humanitarian corridors, the stricter we can be and have to be with the return of those who are not eligible for asylum. Because one thing must also be very clear, we have our international obligations, we will fulfill them, we have done that in the past, we do this now, but we as Europeans will decide who comes to Europe and under what circumstances, and not the smugglers and traffickers.
Madam President, yesterday you met with Georgian Prime Minister as we are waiting for Commission and decision and recommendation for European Council. What will be your main message today for Georgian people?
Yes, we have taken stock of the progress in Georgia. Lots has been done, a lot is still to do. So the main message is take the opportunity now, give it a push forward, and be very clear in the reform process and the policies that we have agreed.
And Madam President,
what's your message to countries here? People, countries who have reservations about cost and also about reforms that need to be done within the Union?
I did not get the first part of your question because everybody was.
Reservations about enlargement. We're hearing worries about cost, but also about the reforms that are needed to make the Union.
We have a long history of enlargement, and yes, I understand that those who join the European Union have to be ready to join. But the experience of enlargement in the European Union was that it was always to a tremendous benefit for both sides. Not only the accessing countries benefited enormously, the living standard was rising rapidly, but also, of course, the European Union benefited enormously from accession. Our biggest strength is our single market. The enlargement of the single market is always a huge added value for all of us.
Madam President, report would be perfect.
Guten Morgen. Das ist heute ein ganz wichtiges Treffen, bei dem wir uns hier unterhalten über die Zukunft unserer Europäischen Union. Es geht im Wesentlichen um die Frage der Erweiterung. Wir wissen, dass wir uns vorgenommen haben, jetzt endlich nach 20 Jahren, die das schon zugesagt ist, die westlichen Balkanstaaten in der Europäischen Union aufnehmen zu können, dass wir das vorhaben mit Moldau und der Ukraine, dass wir auch perspektivisch Georgien dabei sehen. Aber alles das macht auch klar, dass wir uns nicht nur mit den Fragen beschäftigen müssen, der Beitrittsprozesse dieser Länder und inwieweit die Voraussetzungen für den Beitritt und wann sie jeweils gewährleistet sind, sondern dass wir auch die Europäische Union selber zukunftsfähig machen müssen. Das betrifft ganz besonders Entscheidungsstrukturen. Ich habe in Prag in einer Rede zu diesem Thema versucht deutlich zu machen, dass es dann nicht sein kann, dass etwa in Fragen der Außenpolitik oder der Steuerpolitik es immer bei Einstimmigkeit bleibt. Wir müssen dann auch mit qualifizierten Mehrheiten Entscheidungen treffen können, damit die Souveränität und Handlungsfähigkeit der Europäischen Union gewährleistet ist. Die Bürgerinnen und Bürger erwarten ja auch, dass wir da, wo Probleme sind, sie lösen, dass wir etwa nach außen hin auch handlungsfähig sind. Und das ist etwas, was wir dann auch sicherstellen müssen. Das gilt auch für Fragen der Governance. Umso mehr Kommissarinnen und Kommissare, umso mehr muss man sich auch überlegen, wie das denn alles vernünftig gemacht werden kann. Man kann ja nicht einfach immer quasi die Regierung erweitern und neue Ministerien erfinden. Da wird man also eine pragmatische Lösung finden müssen. Und für uns in Deutschland spielt natürlich auch immer die Frage, wie viele Sitze hat unser Land im Europäischen Parlament als großes Mitgliedsland. Das wird uns auch bewegen in den nächsten Jahren. Darüber kann jetzt diskutiert werden. Und das gilt dann natürlich auch über die finanziellen Fragen, die damit dann irgendwann verbunden sein werden. Jeder und jede weiß, es ist so, dass es dann nicht dabei bleiben kann, dass alle Länder, die heute Nettozahlungen empfangen, darauf rechnen können, dass das in Zukunft so bleibt, sondern sie werden dann zur Finanzierung auch von Wachstumsprozessen in den Beitrittsländern mit beitragen müssen. Auch das muss ja gemeinsam vorangebracht werden. Also aus meiner Sicht ist das hier ein guter Ort, um diese Fragen, die für die Zukunft Europas von großer Wichtigkeit sind, einmal ohne den Druck einer Entscheidung diskutieren zu können, damit wir die richtigen Grundlagen für das haben, was wir uns für die Zukunft vorgenommen haben.
Sind Sie bereit dazu, diese Dinge auch sozusagen anzuschieben, indem Sie Druck machen? Weil im Prinzip stimmen ja viele zu, aber jeder Einzelne will halt seinen Punkt nicht abgeben, sei es die Agrarsubvention, sei es das Vetorecht. Da muss ja immer noch ein Streit kommen, der das am Ende durchführt.
Ich bin froh, dass wir so früh diskutieren, weil ja ganz offensichtlich ist, dass da viele Fragen auch nicht ganz einfach zu einem gemeinsamen Ergebnis gebracht werden können. Das ist nicht weiter schlimm. Wir sind alles erwachsene Leute. Da muss man Probleme auch diskutieren und auflösen können. Aber das muss jetzt diskutiert werden. Und das war auch der Grund, warum ich sehr weitreichende Aussagen gemacht habe, sowohl in Prag, wo ich die Gelegenheit hatte, eine europapolitische Rede zu halten, die ganz bewusst auf das gezielt hat, was wir heute hier beraten. Und ich bin ganz froh, dass in dann doch so relativ kurzer Zeit daraus ein Diskussionsprozess entstanden ist, der in ganz Europa stattfindet, rechtzeitig, weil das ja nicht nächstes Jahr ansteht und übernächstes Jahr, aber doch bald. Und deshalb darf man nicht immer die Dinge vor sich herschieben, weil die so kompliziert sind, wie ja eben auch geschildert worden ist. Und das Gleiche gilt für das, was ich dem Europäischen Parlament bei meinem Redebeitrag habe darlegen können. Wir müssen schon genau gucken, wie können wir dafür Sorge tragen, dass unser Europa souverän ist, dass es seinen Platz hat in der Welt und die Probleme, die die Bürgerinnen und Bürger haben und wo sie erwarten, dass Europa die Antwort finden muss, auch Europa die Antwort findet. Schönen Dank. Schönen Dank. Ich muss jetzt arbeiten.
Mr. Chancellor, why didn't Germany want...
Albania coming. Welcome again. You make doorstep,
Okay. Se va la
Edina pot, kako urejati, kako učinkovito upravljati z migracijami, legalizacija. Se pravi, čim več migracij, ker te bojo vedno so bile, vedno bojo, čim več teh migracij spraviti skozi legalne oblike, ki vključujejo tako trening centre, ne samo z vidika jezika, ampak tudi z vidika veščin na samih lokacijah izvora, se pravi v državah izvora, konec koncev Evropa potrebuje delovno silo, in potem tudi legalne načine, kako pomagati tem ljudem, da pridejo do tudi služb in domov v Evropski uniji na popolnoma legalen način. In to na način, da se prvič izognemo kriminalnim združbam in drugič, da ljudje, ko pridejo, dobijo čim prej dejansko delo, ki jim tudi ustreza. Hvala lepa.
Hvala lepa.
Hvala.
Slovakia yet, so let's see what happens in terms of government formation in Slovakia. And that ultimately is going to be a matter for the Party of European Socialists, and I think it'll depend on how he performs as Prime Minister, if he becomes Prime Minister. That's really going to be a matter for them. But I just hope there won't be a double standard in terms of what they would have said about us. No, I'm very ambitious about enlargement. I think some countries, particularly some of the countries in the Balkans, have been asked to wait too long. I think we should speed it up. But I also think we need to be honest and realistic with people about how long it takes. You have to meet certain standards to join the European Union. You have to get to a certain level in terms of the economy and governance and law. And we can't short-circuit those things or shortcut those things. So from the point at which you become a candidate to the point at which you actually become a member, it's many years. But I'm very enthusiastic about future enlargement. One of the great things about having the European Political Community meeting here yesterday was, I had a chance to speak to the Prime Minister of Albania, the Prime Minister of North Macedonia, the President of Montenegro, and to be able to say to them that Ireland is very much behind them when it comes to their bid to become members, and then also briefly when I spoke to President Zelensky yesterday to reassure them and the Moldovans too that Ireland will favour the beginning of negotiations with them in December, provided the Commission recommendation on that is anyway favourable.
What do you think? If it's really possible to get generally values of democracy and accountability, it's fair to accept their membership in such kind of powerful European
Yeah, I'd have to double check on that. I don't think Aliev's party is in the EPP. I've certainly never met him in EPP. CDI. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, look, I think that would be very difficult. I haven't seen any application for them to join the EPP, and as you know, Azerbaijan's outside the European Union, so I think you could only even become an associate member in that circumstance. But I'd have to double check. Look, I think given the events in Nagorno-Karabakh and Armenia, that would be extremely difficult. Had a chance to meet the Armenian Prime Minister there yesterday. It's a very difficult situation. Almost the entire Armenian population of Nagorno-Karabakh has had to leave. That's very distressing, I think, and Armenia is now dealing with the very big refugee crisis. And one thing I think we need to stand over as EU is that the territorial borders of Armenia must be respected. Those are the borders that have been in place and internationally recognised since the end of the USSR, and I think they have to be respected.
Okay, thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Faut que je retrouve
So, das ist kein Kurs. Ja? Das ist kein Kurs, die Kriterien. Und die Kriterien müssen erfüllt sein. Ob das mit der Droit, ob das gegen Korruption ist, da kann ich nicht einfach so, aber dann ist das egal, weil du Potenzial ist für Konfliktsituationen. Dafür sind dann zum Beispiel die Reunion von gestern mal mit PC gut. Weil für darauf zurückzukommen, ich hatte gestern ja eine Reunion über Multilateralismus, wo ich so zu 11 Ländern, von den 11 Ländern sind am Anfang 4. Das war Liechtenstein, das war Schweiz, das war wo San Marino, wo Schweiz, wo Lützeburg, an Irland, an dann Irland heinst du einfach mehr kompliziert am Good Friday Agreement. Mit all die anderen Länder haben potenziell Konfliktsituationen. Das war Georgien, das war Kosovo, das war Armenien, das war Lettland, das war Litauen, das war Zypern, das war Griechenland, das heißt, sind ein ganz viele Länder, die einfach mit ihren Operen Probleme haben. Da wenn das die EPC wichtig an Menschen Premier so zum Beispiel wie wichtig für hier auf die EPC auch können zu kommen, dafür schon die Daseinsberechtigung als bestätigt.
Zurück zur Reform von der EU. Wie muss die Reform auflaufen? Kann eine EU-Erweiterung kommen, ihr Reform, also da muss verdicht Reform kommen?
Normal ist es besser, für den Ordnung am Haus in Tiere groß abmischt. Der Fall ist, es sind verschiedene Regeln, wo man muss darüber diskutieren, wie man funktionieren. Weil wir sehen ganz oft, dass man zu 27 scheint du Geiselgroll gibt von dem einen oder von dem anderen. Da muss neben dem Mechanismus finden, wie ihn einfach weiter könnte, nicht dass es für verschiedene Länder dann die Möglichkeit ist, für alles zu blockieren, die Projekte europäer zu blockieren. Mit da sind auch Hausaufgaben da, für allem die Kriterien, und die Kriterien kann man nicht über Bord gehen, auch von Situationen kritisch ist.
Das ist die wichtigste Reform, die als echt müsste umgehen.
Für mich hast du nicht Respekt vor Regeln. Wir haben spricht zum Beispiel monetaire de droit, dass wir dort Regeln nämlich streng gesehen, dass durch finanzielle Sanktionen, also nicht Sanktionen, wie so auf jeden Fall nicht überwiesen gehen, von Etat droit nicht respektiert wird. Wenn am Punkt der Pindorsal von den Werten von der Europäischen Union schon nicht respektiert gehen, am Anfang mal da Hund sind, am Anfang irgendwie Zahn, die Bilder aber nicht beißen kann, haben wir auch ein Problem.
Wie ist mit der Unanimität? Du hast Lützburg ja was bestimmte Domänen, wo geht immer mit den Zahlen.
Ja, noch immer.
Wo sieht dann dort die Limiten, wo müsste vielleicht abgegeben?
Wenn man will, als europäisches Kontinent auch eine Rolle spielen, dann muss man auch international eine Rolle spielen. Das ist die Außenpolitik zum Beispiel von den Punkten, wo wir der Meinung sind, dass man schon mehr könnten, die Unanimität aufschaffen, wird auch die europäische Position stärken an der Welt. Am Moment sind wir ganz oft ein Kakaoett auf der internationalen Bühne. Wir sind ein ökonomisch ganz stark Kontinent, aber politisch war immer viel mehr, wie das, was wir am Anfang repräsentieren.
Weiter Thema heute das Migration. Wie ist die Position von der aktuellen Regierung?
Du hast ja einen Akkord von gehen, das Fach auch stehen weiter, den an die richtige Richtung geht. Für uns ist es wichtig, dass die internationalen Menschenrechte auch respektiert gehen. Aber tatsächlich, die Kapazitäten sind auch nicht illimitiert. Und dafür muss ich gucken, wer eine Region kann finden. Am Moment, als du mal weitergeht, da gehen die Gespräche da weiter mit das zu Bresel das vor nach Korfond das vor schon net garantiiert. Da muss man gucken, ich weiß, dass verschiedene Länder ganz zäh sind, die froh Solidarität kann les arrange und dann da net der Geometrie variabel an dafür brauchen wir auch einen permanenten Mechanismus.
Respektiert die Menschenrechte.
Dat muss lo gucken, wann den ganz definitiv definiiert ass de Fett ass Dir will net a Flüchtlinge also den Gefehl ze ginn, wie war kriminell a Flüchtlingen zu Summe giffen an den Satz gesagt ginn ass net richtig fan ich. Et muss net Prozeduren awer respektieren. Dublin muss auch funktionieren, mir gesinn dass Dublin net funktioniert. Mi hunn als Regel ginn, mir gesinn, dass bis net funktioniert hunn, wenn se muss Eure bekucken, fir do verschärft ze ginn. Mit huet was auch bei zu Lützburg ginint Limiten. Bei zu Lützburg ginn doch Limiten an wann war kein Platz mit ass kein Platz mit du. An mir sinn immer solidarisch, so viel man können, méi wann net geht, da geht net méi. An da muss vun andere Länder déi Solidaritéit do erwarten, die awer den europäesche Projekt noch bringen.
Lachte Somme vun den Wahlen zu Lützeburg mat Gefiel kom da hin eventuell auch gefiel dat de lachte Somme dech als so gewählten Lützeburger Premier.
Dat décidéiert wie dat se sonden hun Lo Chance die lacht 10 Joer ha ons Land vertreten. Dat net mir zu soun, ob dat gut oder net gut ver. Auf jeden Fall Millionen als Positionen können verteidigen. Wir für allem ein europäische Projekte noch weiter schaffen an den Limiten, die wir haben. Das ist die Idee, viel an der Sonne, ob ich nach 5 Jahren die wo Brüssel kommen oder nicht.
Könnt ihr sich am meisten respektiv von der Westen der EU, weil die letzten Jahre zurückkommen?
Die Friedensprojekte aber an intern. Wenn wir gucken, zwischen den 27, wir rundherum überall Konflikte, überall. Armenien sitzen im CPR in der Europäischen Union, Kosovo, Serbien sitzen am CPR in der Europäischen Union. Und die Europäische Union haben wir fertig seit dem Zweiten Weltkrieg, aber innerhalb den Ländern, an denen es mal einfach als regelmäßig gesehen haben, etwas abgebaut hat, Frieden zu tun. Am Anfang aus Europa für allem ein Friedensprojekt. Und, das ist schwer, weil direkt rundherum, also in einer Konfliktsituation, dann schaffen, dass wir den Friedensprojekt immer hochhalten, an denen auch an dem wir diskutieren, für allem auch fertig hochhalten.
Und als Premier kann auch als Außenminister lesen.
Aber das ist nach immer der Wähler. Der Wähler décidéiert, was meine Rolle ist für die nächsten 5 Jahre. Ich habe probiert, mein Bestes zu machen. Wo kein einfach Jahr, wo noch kein einfach Jahr für ich. Mit die letzten 5 Jahre, wo Covid hat, wo eine Energiekrise hat, wo eine Inflationsjahr. Ich habe probiert, mein Bestes zu gehen. Wenn der Wähler meint, hat ihn besser gemacht oder gebe ihn besser die nächsten 5 Jahre machen, dann ist das so. Voilà.
Ja. Ich habe noch eine Frage zur Erweiterung von der Sterne. Ich meine nicht, dass an dem man die Message geht, ja, es geht schwer bis 2030, wir wissen dann nicht wirklich, dass die Reformen auf verschiedenen Ländern, wie an der Ukraine, wo zum Beispiel ganz stark ist, ausbremst. Und das nicht eine Frage von Ermutigungsmessage, wo müsste kommen.
Ja, wir müssen den richtigen Equiliber finden, Herr Velasquez. Auf der einen Seite, also nicht demotivieren, wir haben die Leute keine falsche Hoffnung zu geben. Und da ist eine Woche schlecht Zeichen, wenn man alle Leute so. Die sieht bald rum, wie just nach der Tour, und da fehlt einfach noch etwas. Mehr Kriterien, wenn die bis erfüllt sind, dann ist der Moment. Die wisst, depuis le début, gehören zu denen, die nicht dafür sind, die sehen mehr Kriterien, wir müssen die Kriterien respektieren. Und wir noch verschiedene interne Regeln, die müssen vielleicht verbessern, eher just Familie groß abmachen, weil das bringt doch Probleme mit sich.
Aber wie realistisch ist das, dass man Dynamität geschwind aufschaffen an der Außenpolitik, weil es keinen Sinn machen mehr?
Ja, im Moment ist es ganz schwer, und im Moment ist es für mich wichtig, dass wir fertig bringen, die Änderungen zu machen, wo man keine Treaties-Änderungen brauchen. Weil du weißt ganz genau, wenn man eine Treaties-Änderung braucht, da braucht man eine Unanimität. Da sind verschiedene Länder, werden Referendum noch organisiert gehen, und auch verschiedene Länder werden express alles blockieren. Da wenn sie mal auf den Tisch legen, alles, was wir können machen, ohne Treaties zu ändern, ich meine, dass wir da schon einen dicken Schritt noch viel gemacht haben. Voilà, ihr schönen. Gesehen wir reis gegen halber Rang.
Okay.
Ist das gut?
Ja, ja.
Ich weiß nämlich nicht, ob der halber gelieft. Halber 2 geht durch.
Ja, wir müssen just gucken, wo wir nicht so flexibel.
Sie sind nicht flexibel. Hi, sorry für gestern, ich sind du fortgegangen. Nee, ich sind heute da noch. Komm mal zurück.
Okay.
Nee.
Alors, bienvenue. Ça va, ça va. Et vous, tout préparé? Très bien. J'espère avoir un bon conseil. Vous allez, vous n'inquiétez pas. Alors, vous allez
Par ici, s'il vous plaît.
Good morning. Hello, hello.
Mr. President.
Hello.
We know that also the enlargement.
With setting a date for enlargement on 2030, aren't you going to be a little bit ahead of yourself?
I think it's very important to set a date under my own responsibility, not more than that, but I can observe that more and more actors are supporting the idea that a date is useful. Useful why? Because this is an encouragement to work very hard on both sides. Without a date, there is a temptation to procrastinate, what we did a lot the last 20 years regarding the Western Balkans, for instance, and I have the impression that what's important today, this is not really the date. What's important today is the fact that we start in-depth talks among the member states, the leaders, with the strong legitimacy of the leaders, on what we need to do to get ready. And there are three questions. This is, in my opinion, the framework for this strategic agenda debate. What do we want to do together? What are the priorities? What are the policies? Point one. How do we pay? Difficult question. When we are talking about money, this is always complex and difficult. And it's a starting point today. We will not decide today. We will start those efforts to converge from a political point of view. And finally, how do we decide together, to make sure that we are ready and able to act or to react when needed. This is the framework for, I hope, a good debate that will take place today. And under the Belgian presidency, we will work further. And the goal is to have some concrete principles, orientation for the future around the summer next year.
Finnish Prime Minister just earlier said that enlargement is a geopolitical necessity. Is this element getting stronger compared to the traditional criteria?
Look, let's be frank. The recent years, we have observed a certain form of serious difficulties, even to address the topic, even to discuss the topic at the level of the leaders. And we have understood with this war launched by Russia against Ukraine, it's not possible anymore to procrastinate. This is possible anymore to turn blind eyes. We need to address, to tackle this question. It doesn't mean that this is easy, because across the European Union there are different opinions, sensitivities, and this is the European democracy. We show respect for this reality, but this is not because this is difficult that we shouldn't address. On the contrary, this is difficult, but I think that we have the political strength to address such a topic and to make decisions.
What is more important for you, the geopolitical dimension or the merit-based process?
No, this is very clear. This is a merit-based process. This is extremely clear. And because it's a merit-based process, this is good to set a date, because with a date, it will encourage everyone to work in order to fulfill commitments.
But if it's necessary from a geopolitical point of view, wouldn't it be also possible to become member and reform inside the EU?
I'm very clear, and I have been very clear, this is a merit-based process. It will remain a merit-based process. But there is no position between a date and a merit-based process. On the contrary, a date is an encouragement to make sure that the conditions will be fulfilled by each side within the EU, but including with the candidate countries. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
te han hecho caso. ¿Has visto? Una llamada. Ha sido llamada.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this press conference of the President of the European Parliament after this informal meeting of the European Council in Granada. The President will start with a statement, and then we will take some questions afterwards.
Thank you, Yuri. Good morning to you all. Before I go into the exchange that I had with the Prime Ministers this morning, I would like to sincerely welcome the Nobel Peace Prize being given to Narges Mohammadi, women's rights activist and human rights defender. I think it's a very important message and one that we definitely welcome. So yesterday we had a very good meeting of the European political community, a format of EU candidates and European partners that I believe is very useful, especially as we are experiencing war on our continent and our collective security is increasingly under threat. But to be clear at the outset, the EPC cannot become a substitute for enlargement because enlargement is and remains the European Union's strongest geopolitical tool. It is an investment in peace and security and democracy and, importantly, prosperity, a process that benefits everyone involved, both current and new members. And if previous enlargements have shown us, is that this is evidently the case. And that's why one of my main messages was to say that we must start a genuine discussion on our own EU internal reform. We need to be ready when the candidates are ready. Therefore, we must start now, because it is long overdue, and anything is clear is that what worked or works for 27 will not work for 32, 33 or 35. And I did this in order to link it also with how we reform internally, which we have to kickstart, but also looking at the immediacy of the work that we are doing until the end of the year is the revision of our long-term budget, the multi-annual financial framework. And my second point was about the fact that funds are finite. If the pandemic, the invasion of Ukraine, natural disasters and the cost of living crisis have shown us is that all have taken their toll on our budget. Rising interest rates have pushed up our next generation EU borrowing costs, and we cannot let the next generation of Europeans become responsible for repaying our debts. So I also said that our budget is stretched to the limit, to the extent that it cannot be that if a country that faces a natural disaster towards the end of the year is told that there is no money left. This is the reality that we live in today, and if we continue on this trajectory in December this year, our current funding for Ukraine will run out. And this means that we cannot simply ignore these realities. We need to act. And now, that's for the security of Ukraine, for the security and future of Europe. We spent a lot of time talking about migration. For the first time in decades, and really decades, there is a realistic possibility to find an agreement on our common rules on asylum and migration. It is within reach. To do this, we need to hold the course. We need to keep calm heads and finalize our work on the Asylum and Migration Pact. There are 5 files. All of them can now, following the agreement this week reached on the crisis regulation, can resume with the pace that I would like to see faster, but looking at a successful resolution over this pact by the end of our mandate. And the reason why I say the end of our mandate, because election after election, migration dominates our citizens' concerns. It tops our citizens' concerns. And what we cannot let is this debate dominate and polarize yet another European elections campaign. I'm not saying it won't happen, but the least we can do is that we can show on paper, on black and white, that we have addressed this issue from a legislative angle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have time for a few questions. We start with Gabriella here. Please.
Hi.
Hungary and Poland cannot alone block a majority deal.
but they are, offering very harsh anti-immigration rhetoric today in the arrivals, talking about legal rape and, clearly outlining their position against the EU policies. So even if they can't stop it formally, what does it say about the possible implementation? And you're saying, we're going to have a deal on paper, but will it actually change anything on the ground? Thanks.
I mean, I remain optimistic. What has kept us, let's say, far behind in the past is that there was no political will to go through with such ambitious legislation with a majority. Consensus was sought year after year in an area, and this is when we talk about what we mean by veto rights, in an area where a veto cannot be used in migration policy. Now, does that mean that we do not understand individual countries? I had a conversation this morning with the Prime Minister of Poland on this, and there is, a need to recognize that national situations are different. If you talk to colleagues from the Baltic states, they talk about the hybrid threat of migrants being pushed through Belarus. That is a new front, if you will. I still regret, in a way, after having worked in this area for decades, is that we still do not realistically make distinctions between a land border and a sea border, between irregular arrivals that come by sea and irregular arrivals that come by land. And I think that if we go and we can convince, and there will be a lot of efforts for this to be made, that the 5 files can go through, which balance security at the external border with solidarity from an asylum perspective, then I think we can really start to look long-term at identifying how we deal with our neighbors. The countries that you mentioned, refer to different neighbors, how we talk to countries that are either, and help countries that are source countries or transit countries. So there is no individual solution. There's no, if I can use the term, silver bullet, but let's not kill this pact before we adopt it. I think we owe ourselves and our citizens that.
Thank you. Hi, over here. Oliver Krim with the Austrian newspaper Die Presse. You said on enlargement, what works for 27 won't work for 32, 33, or 35. Why not? And secondly, on migration, why do you want to make a distinction between land and sea borders? Well, why is that important to you? What would it solve that currently isn't being solved?
So thank you for this. So for the second part, I'll start with that. It's because when we are talking about search and rescue missions, for example, that take place, the role of Frontex, the role of the European Union Asylum Agency, how we deploy, how we process applications, etc. There is a completely different scenarios that happen, and it is that we keep facing year after year. But if we want a specific data point, it is a realization 10 years after the Lampedusa tragedy, which we commemorated this week in the European Parliament, with a realization that we have not managed, I wouldn't even say find a solution, but really address the situation where for thousands and thousands of people, for them there is no other option but to get on a boat, most often smuggled, and face, especially if you are women and children, an almost certain death. It is for that reason that I think that we need a specific a way to address the different methods of arrivals by persons who look to Europe as their home, individuals who have no other option, individuals who are persecuted and can never return, and individuals who are looking for a job. And I think that is one that would benefit listening to each and every single European member state in order to identify solutions that at least can find the broadest of consensus. 27, 32, 33. I give you 2 examples. It took us almost 6 months to decide on the date of the European elections. and quite a few months to decide on the increase of numbers of members of the European Parliament. So we will increase from 705 to 720. We talk about adapting our policies. We recognized after the pandemic that actually dealing with health at the European level worked. We are no longer a set of energy islands, but deeply interconnected because we had no choice in order to uncouple from Russia. We have been talking about a European energy union for years, and we still do not have that entrenched in our treaties. Now, we can discuss treaty reform separately, not get bogged down in whether you have a veto or remove, let's say, the unanimity rule. You can talk about numbers of commissioners, etc., but I would put that separately. I would say take stock of where it would mean something for our citizens. We recall the conference on the future of Europe, a whole year of debate as to where Europe can do better, and actually it has. And it has resolved. Going back to migration, you ask citizens, why is this the top of your concerns, especially for European elections? And the answer is because only Europe can solve it. And I think that's the conversation we need to have. Because when countries are ready, we cannot then say, actually, we are not. We saw that last December with a non-decision on accession of Romania and Bulgaria to Schengen area. And that, I think, is a situation where, in the long term, even when talking to our Western Balkan countries, is what they hope, or in a sense, they dread that would happen to them.
We have the gentleman there who have asked many times. Corner.
Mateusz Chustun from Polish Radio RMF. I would like to ask you also another question about the migration, because in the morning our Prime Minister said that he will not change his statement about the migration pact. And of course, everything depends on the election next week in Poland. But what are you going to do if the Law and Justice, this political party, will win the election? How are you going to talk to them about the migration pact? And this is the first question. Another short question about the Nagorno-Karabakh, because we've heard that this is also a big topic on that summit. What about the Nagorno-Karabakh? If this area will be still independent, or this agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan, included this country to Azerbaijan, how it looks? Thank you.
Thank you. First, of course, I will not presume to speculate on the outcome of the election next week. And I recall, a number of discussions that we've had with our Polish partners for many years, but also recently with the situation of the migrations being brought in from Belarus, for example. That is a specific situation. But I would also say that one needs to talk to another. I think what we have not done enough in the European Union is actually find broader consensus. This week was an exception. We have seen discussion very well led by the Spanish presidency to unblock the crisis regulation, with Italy and Germany coming together to agree with making sure that their individual perspectives are met. And that is one that I think we could bring countries like Poland on board in the longer term. So I would rather say we'll see what happens at the election, and we will talk to the government, and as always have been done, in order to identify whether we could help to change the position, convince, and also understand the realities that are being faced by all individual countries. On Nagorno-Karabakh, I was asked about this question during the debate with the prime ministers. I confirmed that yesterday a very strongly worded resolution was adopted in the European Parliament on the situation. At the moment, we would focus on the humanitarian crisis, in other words, how to help Armenia absorb the refugees, tens of thousands who have left their lives behind within hours because they were forced to leave. But I also welcome all efforts to de-escalate and therefore wish that we would see that de-escalation result in something a little bit more concrete than we've had so far in the future meetings with the European Council President, the French President and the German Chancellor, who have placed a lot of responsibility on themselves to speak to both Armenia and Azerbaijan. Finally, I have invited the Prime Minister of Armenia to address the plenary, and he will in Strasbourg on the 18th, so in 10 days from now.
One final question here, please.
Thank you, Madam
Hi.
President. I'm Emin Hussein from Objective TV, exile-based Azerbaijani.
Yes, we spoke
media.
yesterday.
Yeah. My question is, European Parliament adopted since from this year 3 resolutions. In March, a resolution on EU and Azerbaijan relationship. In September, we have resolutions which is urged situation with the political prosecution in case like Gubati Badoglu, famous scholar and anti-corruption fighters. And recently, you adopted a resolution with situation with Karabakh. And always you urge Azerbaijan government to improve situation with human rights, respect European values, but situation not improve according to our observation. And government still try to get some kind of benefits in relation with EU. They are still continue to provide sell gas and oil to EU member states. But Azerbaijani civil society and critical voices like independent media and opposition stay in the big disaster.
Question, please?
What EU should do to improve situation? Because we are your energy partner, but Azerbaijani people in reality didn't get any benefits from EU. It's 10 million population which is live in the big prison.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So we spoke, as I said yesterday, and I will repeat again. I mean, I stand by the resolutions of the European Parliament. Those are the official position, as you know. But perhaps to add is that what we have been very consistent, especially since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, is that we cannot go from one unreliable partner for energy to another. And that is a position that we keep. Okay?
Thank you very much. Thank you. This concludes the press conference. Thank you.
Well, we could do it